mean, personally, I think that, we always hear it's got to be like a victim-centred criminal justice system. But too often it's like they're just treated like witnesses. These girls are just treated as a tool to get a prosecution. And I understand like that's part of the way the system works. But, the amount of money that we're spending on inquiries into looking why this went wrong, can't we spend some of that money on just supporting the girls that were horrific, that continue to be, because this is an ongoing problem. It's like we've not solved it.
Andy Burnham is reportedly considering banning child sex offenders from early release schemes. Currently, groomers and rapists are among the 5,000 prisoners who are set to leave prison early under Labour plans to reduce overcrowding. This, of course, comes off the back of the Rochdale grooming gang ringleader Shabir Ahmed, who was released this week after serving 14 years of a 22-year sentence. That release has caused much anger and distress across the local community, and one of his victims has now been put under police protection to ensure her safety. Well, let's speak with Zak Garner-Purkis. Zak is the investigations editor at the Daily Express. Zak, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So what are you picking up on this?
Well, I mean, basically, it's just been too little too late the whole way through. I mean, Ruby, who is, she was quoted in a Times piece that was featured this morning, but I've spoken to people around her, and they just said that she's been absolutely terrified, and it's a disaster that has just been happening in slow motion, because this is not a surprise that he was getting out. It's been 14 years in the making, and I think there's another point that actually I really want to make, which is that Shabir Ahmed, after the Rochdale case, was actually convicted of 30 counts relating to, a whole separate young child, right? He got another 20 years put on top of his sentence. Because the judge ruled that they run concurrently, it meant that even though his actual sentence was 40 years and he only served 14.
Yeah, I mean, I think lots of people are just sort of baffled by that and kind of shocked that would have happened. And this case has really sort of thrown a spotlight on this. And look, the government says that the reason why they have to release people early is not because they want to, but because there just aren't enough prison places. The outgoing Conservative Justice Minister, Alex Chalk, said that the kind of prisons crisis was a huge issue, and that he had raised it before the Conservatives left power. He was very, very worried about it as well. What can be done practically, Zak? Because you can't just throw up prison places. It takes a while to build prisons. We haven't built enough prisons. What are the options here?
Well, I think it comes down to a matter of priorities, right? And we say, who are these people that are most or pose the biggest risk to the public? And I think when it comes to Shabir Ahmed, the reason why people are so disturbed by it is because the guy is completely unrepentant, and there is no guarantee that he wouldn't go out and do similar things if he feels this way. I mean, in terms of how do we solve the problem with prisons? I mean, that's a whole nother matter. But I think it's we don't want to conflate the two, because it's when it comes to these groomers and the grooming gangs, it's judge them. Should they be being released, rather than pulling it out so much into the bigger picture? No,
absolutely. I mean, these are absolutely horrific crimes. I suppose that the question is, if someone's murdered somebody as well, they would, with the victims of that crime, would want that person to go to prison as well. Personally, I feel like if you're a persistent shoplifter, you should be going to prison. I don't think you should get a pass for that. If you're a persistent drug dealer causing misery, let's say where I live, and I see the people who are regularly dealing drugs causing all kinds of misery. But there is this problem, isn't there? We all want these people to go to prison. Are you saying that the government should say, right, do an opt-out for people involved in the grooming gangs? They have to get longer prison sentences, and maybe let other people out earlier?
I mean, look, it's a really difficult question, right? Because if, like you say, there are so many crimes that are deserving of a custodial sentence that people need to see, the inside of a prison cell. I guess it's when we're looking at the grooming gangs and they're going, how do we deal with this? And it starts going, okay, what is it, prison? And then there's deportation. If we, just send them away, is that somehow a solution to it? I'm not sure about that as well.
Yeah, no, and I think, that's another question that definitely people are looking at. If people have a dual citizenship, should deportation, and should the Foreign Office be discussing that with their with those other countries as well? And in terms of the victims, I mean, it must be absolutely stomach churning for them. And there's been a lot of criticism in terms of, were they told in advance? How was the communications with them and their protection and their safety?
Well, it's just been non-existent, right? What the way that with too many of these cases, how it works is the police will knock on the door of a survivor and say, "Can you help us with this prosecution?" And there is almost no support. There is, they get the bare minimum. And then, I'll give you an example, right? When Ruby, when her main perpetrator came out of prison, she didn't know until she saw him in Asda.
Gosh. God, that's absolutely shocking. And has the Ministry of Justice and others said that they are going to improve how they give support to victims?
Well, the thing with it is it's like, where does the money come from if we want to have money for building the new prisons? I mean, personally, I think that, we always hear it's got to be like a victim-centred criminal justice system. But too often it's like they're just treated like witnesses. These girls are just treated as a tool to get a prosecution. And I understand that's part of the way the system works. But, the amount of money that we're spending on inquiries into looking why this went wrong, can't we spend some of that money on just supporting the girls that were horrific, that continue to be, because this is an ongoing problem. It's like we've not solved it. And honestly, if we spent that money on trying to support those women that have been so badly affected, we would start seeing the solutions, because those are the people that will be able to tell us.
So are you saying there shouldn't be a public inquiry into the grooming scandal?
I mean, well, my personal view would be that you'd be better off spending that money on actually busting some of these gangs. The biggest way that you can demonstrate that we've turned the page on this is by actually putting some of these people behind bars. Yeah. Get a part of the NCA and have them specifically focused on grooming gangs, and spend the rest of the money on supporting the survivors and getting them to then support those prosecutions. I think that would be far more effective, rather than just a lot of soul searching. Yeah,
and the point you make as well is a very good one in terms of the damage that is done to these young women they've often got children themselves. I was privileged enough to meet some survivors last year in Parliament. I mean, this is not something that goes away. This lives with these women for the rest of their lives and affects them for the rest of their lives as well. It's not even after they've been to court and things like that, it just doesn't go away. The pain, the horror, the trauma, the PTSD does not go away. Zak, thanks very much for your time, and thanks very much for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.
That's Zak Garner-Purkis from the Daily Express.